No.
Thing.
Yeah, yeah. You're about to talk. I was at the. Okay, welcome back to Zero Interest, doing Mob Psycho, episode 5.
It's force of habit. Also, we did just record one where it was Ruby, and I had.
Yeah. Mob Psycho 100, episode 5, Ochimusha, Psychic Powers, and Me.
Full disclosure: we literally just came off of watching, reviewing the finale of Ruby, so I was super down before this episode. Doing this one helped. So much, so much. So, episode starts exactly where we left off. The fitness club, the self-improvement club, is that the proper title?
Body Improvement Club.
Body Improvement Club. They're all knocked out, and Kageyama, is that his name? Blondie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no, Taro. Taro is the blondie. Shigeo Kageyama is our main character.
I guess like 3 names, it's not helpful.
Just call him Mob.
Yeah. So
Mob and Taro.
Teru is like, hey, fight me. And Mob's like, nah. And Ghost is like, hey, you should probably fight him. It's like,
Defend yourself.
yeah, defend yourself. And Mob's like, no, you don't use psychic powers against people. And I think at this point we get a flashback to shadowy figure telling Mob all about how to use his psychic powers responsibly.
Yeah. It's a special. It's a talent like everybody else has. Some people are good at reading and writing. Some people are good at sports, and some people have special powers. Just because you have special powers doesn't make you special. It just makes you like everyone else. And they're also very dangerous. Kind of like a knife. And what do we not do with knives? Mom's like, point them at people. It's like, right. And for people like us,
It's Reagan.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's well funny. Reagan did kind of give some really good life advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Weird how he's both responsible and also complete dickhead. But
yeah, Dimple the Ghost is just like, yeah, no, that loses all effect when it's coming from Reagan.
So it continues for a while. Basically, Teru he tries to do like a attack of some sort against Mob, and he just kind of stops dead within like a couple feet of him. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Time to do movement stuff. And he's literally just bouncing around in the background while Mob's just like, oh, he's using telekinesis because the ghost asks. So he's like, yeah, it's he's just moving weird, so it's not really. I'm just gonna let him.
I do that, but it makes me nauseous.
Yeah. Eventually, Teru figures out, hey, I'm just bouncing around like a bouncy ball for no reason. So maybe I should try a different tack. So instead he does like a full body tackle with psychic power enhancement, which sends Mob flying, but still seemingly does nothing, aside from sending him flying.
Yeah.
And he lifts him up telekinetically, and there's a cracking sound, which implies it does something, but, future scenes imply it doesn't do anything. Then he just starts throwing him around and such.
Mm-hmm.
And drops him on the floor. It's like, hey, you are so pathetic and you should want to use your powers. And Dimple's like, this is... I can kind of see where he's coming from. He just learned he is a moderately large fish in a very, very small pond. And he just found someone that's on his level. He needs to prove himself.
Superior.
Yeah. But Mob's never going to fight back, so this is pointless. So I'm going to step in. Yeah. I'm a big dude. Sometimes.
Yeah. He transforms into his full form from the previous, like, episode 3. And he's like, I'm only leftover scraps from what I used to be, but I could still take on someone like you. Immediately dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To which Mob's like, Dimple percent goes up by 3.
Mm.
And it's like flashback of, oh, look at that, and you should use your powers on them, and you should
Use your powers all the time. Oh, wow, she's got a fine ass.
You want
use your
X-ray
powers.
vision?
Hey,
Huh?
you want me to teach you how to use X-ray vision? I can do that, huh? You should use your powers more.
He's like, no, I can't do that, you perv. The whole X-ray vision, and it's just, and Taro's like, I bet you're really upset
Sorry
that
about
your
your
pet.
friend. And I was like,
Mom's like,
I don't care.
yeah, it's okay.
Percent goes up none.
Yeah, and then Taro goes on a whole spiel where he belittles people and says, hey, "You're just a small fry. Everyone around me is just average or a small fry, and I'm above everybody." And
Mob gets flashbacks to, in the middle of this, Dimple just encouraging him and saying, "Hey, you could be great if you really tried," and such things like that. And he's like, Dimple wasn't actually that bad of a guy. He was better than you, at least, because all you seem to do is belittle people.
Mm-hmm. Which sets him off.
Faced.
And
because Dimple was just a face, you get it?
Yeah.
Faced.
Continue.
Continue? I don't fucking remember the next thing.
I'm pretty sure at that point he gets blasted more into the school.
Ah. Okay, so thrown into the school, and Teru is basically going on a rampage at this point, just smashing through buildings and slams Mob up against a chalkboard or something.
Mm-hmm.
And another scene of.
And then at one point, they get into the cooking class.
Yeah, I was going to say, slams him through the wall and into the cooking class, up against the wall again. And Tara's like, "Oh, home economics room. That means the knives are right about." Oh.
Yeah.
Does the whole dozen knives thing. It's like,
and he's like, "You better defend yourself, or else you're gonna die or get hurt."
You shouldn't point knives at people.
Yeah, you shouldn't point knives at people. Again, that actually ties back into the thing from earlier. And he's like, "Yeah, so what?" And little mental thought of, I'm not going to actually hurt him or kill him here. I just want to scare him into using his powers.
And then he, fires them, I guess would be the proper term. Looses them, I guess, on Mob, and he bounces them back. Well, he bounces them away, and one of them happens to go in a direction where... Right off the top. Yep. Just complete, I don't know what the name of the hairstyle is, but there is one for, monks where they just have hair around the...
Well, what happens is he looks like an Ochimusha, which is a samurai that's been defeated and shamed. They get the top of their head shaved, and everything else is left.
Yeah. He takes poorly to that. I didn't know the context of that, but thank you. So, he takes poorly to that. So, again, just slamming the shit out of him, and then runs up and starts choking him, I think. Is the next thing.
They kind of have a battle of ideals of, Teru's like, I'm special, I belong above the world, and Mom's like, how can you be so confident in yourself? And he's like, well, it's my psychic powers, of course. And then Mob, it's like,
so you're nothing. Okay.
I get it. You're just like me. You're just a loser who, without their psychic powers, is nothing, and that's all you really cling to. And I've been trying to improve myself and change, but
you're just kind of leaning into it. He takes poorly to this, and has flashbacks, I believe, at this point, where he's remembering all of the amazing things he did purely with his psychic powers, acing tests and being great at sports and getting the girls to like him. And chatter. Partially, presumably, based on the framing because of the...
Yeah, and Mob also does say, in comparison to me, you're just average.
Yeah, if psychic powers is all you have, then I am so far beyond you, you have no fucking idea. Um, at this point, runs up and just starts choking him. And it's as Mob is, gradually losing oxygen and thus consciousness, that he has a flashback to a formative moment in his life.
Mm-hmm.
Where his brother was getting beaten up and having his money stolen, and one of the thugs knocks Mob out, and bad things happen. Yeah.
When he wakes up again, everybody's collapsed.
Everyone's on the floor and bleeding.
Including his brother. And, I want to change. I don't want something like that to happen again. I've been trying to change. I don't want to use my powers. And the percent is slowly starting to rise.
Up to about 80.
97, actually, it gets to.
Oh.
Yeah, and so So instead of using his powers, he's punched. Because it's the only thing he can really do. And Taro mocks him of like, I thought you said you were working out. This is the limit of what you can do.
In fairness, he has been choking him for about a good 40 seconds.
Yeah. And then finally, Mob loses consciousness and he falls to the ground. And the narrator's like, and thus the battle was never fully concluded. Both parties left unsatisfied and with an emptiness in their hearts. Or so it seemed.
So, yeah. Mob doesn't wake up, but
something else does.
Yeah, knocking him unconscious seems to be a poor decision, is the theme of this episode. So, something wakes up, and he is black and sketchy. Like,
just
literally
covered
sketchy.
In like waves of energy. This is the question mark percent. This, I will say, because the manga has finished, there is an explanation as to what this is, and it does kind of get resolved. That's all I'm going to say on that.
So Taro's like, you finally used your powers, you fucking faker bullshit artist. I'm gonna fucking, alright, let's do this. So, he puts up his ultimate barrier, which is like, yeah, it doesn't look impressive, and it's not supposed to. So,
it's blown through along with all of his clothes.
Is just busted through, and then his clothes are shredded, and then he's sent into the air along with most of the school building.
Well, first he sent into the wall, and he's like, ha ha ha, oh, you used your powers, and then he's like, wait, no, he's unconscious? Oh no. And then the entire school, along with him, is sent up into the air in pieces.
Yeah. So basically, for Taro, not only did he not get Mob to break his ideals, he is also getting demolished by what would happen if he had managed to break Mob's ideals. So he failed on literally every level.
He does say at one point, I completely lost. He sent flying up into the air above the clouds, and then he sees the sun, and naked with a tree. And he's just like, oh, I get it. I'm just average.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody else. And there's a peace that comes across his face. And then everything starts to fall.
So, it's around this point where Mob wakes up and realizes what just happened. And overwhelming despair over using his powers against someone again when he very, very, very didn't want to do that. Even though technically he didn't, but that's not the point in the slightest. So he gets to 100%, and the emotion that it says for it is sadness. I mentioned this during the episode, but I probably would have gone with regret myself. But that's
it's a much broader term.
Yeah,
I feel
it's a little too broad. Is
yeah. So yeah, Regret would probably work, but I guess with that one they just went with sadness. And
Like, for turning everything back, which is what happens next, the entire situation is basically turned back to around the start of the fight. So the school is rebuilt.
yeah,
Teru is still naked and still has a buzz cut up top, but, you know, aside from that, it's all reset back to zero.
yeah, he puts the whole school back together with his psychic
Yeah.
powers.
Yeah, it fits regret way better than it does sadness.
Hmm.
So yeah, everything's turned back, and the delinquents from, was it Black Vinegar?
Yeah, Black Vinegar Middle School. They wake up like Tara's been executed, seeing him naked
In the
with
most
his
brutal way. Yeah,
He's like, "Oh, run, save your hair."
carefully you're blowing out levels.
Sorry.
Sorry. Uh, so yeah, that situation's resolved. Hey, Mob. Sorry, Shigeo says
Yeah.
the fitness guy. He's like, hey, let's go back. We're gonna do some squats. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, do some squats.
Yeah, nobody holds a real grudge with Taru for what happened.
No one really cares. They didn't actually care about any of this.
Yeah, but Taru tries to call out to Mob and just apologize for everything, but Mob's gone too quickly, and he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely lost."
Worth noting that streaming service crapped out on me at this point, so it's
Yeah.
a little bit choppy for my memory of what happened at this point.
Yeah.
So Mob walks home in the rain, presumably.
Mhm.
He gets home, still soaked, and his brother comes in with a towel.
Apparently, he searched for any trace of Dimple for like 3 hours.
Oh yeah, that too. Found nothing. So he, Mob, apologizes about that one time, which
Mhm.
his brother's like, you mean when you threw up in my hood when we were on that car trip and you got sick?
It's like, well, yeah, that too, but
That
no.
too, but no. I don't really remember what happened, but that time with those punks or something like, he probably didn't say that exactly, but
Yeah. The time when the high schoolers tried to take your money and I hurt them.
and
Yeah.
you.
And you. And
he's like, no, you didn't. It, like, one of those dudes just kicked me and it hurt, and that was pretty much it.
yeah, you protected me, as a kind of sinister style of music starts to play in the background. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you need to stop thinking about that stuff. It's not important. And they say, hey, you can eat? No, I'm just gonna go to bed. That's what he does. And then in the next room we have, what's his name?
Ritsu.
Ritsu. He's watching TV and seeing the incident that happened previously with flying debris from a school and a naked man with a buzz cut. Still a great image. He had a hairy ass. I don't know whether to applaud that detail or not. Yeah, so he's seeing that and he's like, that couldn't have been Shigeo, I presume is what he calls him.
Yeah, and he's just kind of sweating. So this is also a really big episode, I feel,
Yeah.
in terms of defining characters. And
Of all the ways we could come back from Ruby, this was just the best one.
yeah,
Just the best.
and
Oh.
I do want to note, Ritsu, whenever he sees Mob, and this is something that you brought up as when it first happened, if I didn't get what the point of that was. Whenever Ritsu sees Mob, he asks him, "Are you okay?" or "Did something happen?" Like every single time he sees Mob, "What happened? Are you okay?"
Did I bring that up? It's been a while. So.
Yeah, but in the past couple episodes, and that's something to keep in mind going forward, considering the past that he has with Mob and with that accident.
Yeah. I guess I might have brought that up, but it's like, hey, he's such a cool brother. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like this guy. Yeah, so this cool episode.
The animation is spectacular.
Mm.
It's. I remember when we were doing that one shot tabletop thing, or not one shot, but that one tabletop thing with Weasel and them. And my character I made, I based them partially off Mob, and then it just turned into Mega Man.
Mm.
I really like Mob as a character because he has an ideal that he tries to stick to as best as he can.
Mm.
Of like One Punch Man, I know you haven't seen it,
No.
but it's important as a sort of comparison point because they're both characters with extraordinary power. Saitama's whole thing is I don't feel satisfied with my power because there's nothing I can use it on because it's way too much. Whereas Mob's thing is I have this great power, but it doesn't make me a better person because I have this power, and I want to be a better person in other ways. And so it's very interesting as a comparison point. And gosh, I just love how the art style works with the animation, and the soundtrack is just great.
It's odd how pretty it can be given how ugly it is. Like, the animation isn't nice. Like, it isn't pretty, artistically speaking, but it can be gorgeous when it really, really wants to be.
Yeah. And the simpler character designs allow for a lot of, like, movement that you can accomplish. Which is something really nice.
Yeah. Oddly enough, given how much we hop on the animation from other show that can stop being mentioned at this point, it's odd how little I can actually speak to the animation when it's this good. Like, when it's really, really good, I have trouble actually talking about it because
there's technical terms that we don't know.
Yeah, essentially. Like, when it's bad, I know enough of the things about bad animation that I can point them out. But I don't know enough about good animation to explain in sufficient terms why it's good. Which sucks, given that we're doing, a show about anime. But, yeah. It is fantastic. And, wow. Was it satisfying to watch.
And, like, there's stuff only gets prettier from here on out in terms of like the stuff they do with it. So it's just it's a visual feast is the proper term. And feast for the eyes.
Zero?
I am very hungry. I am extremely starving.
So
yeah.
As for the writing, I like how they clearly establish everyone's motivation, and there is a narrative through line through every character for how they act in this episode. Everything makes sense. Like, even for Dimple, like, he has a certain fondness for Mob. Like, partially because he's accomplishing what Dimple couldn't, and is his ambition. So being a hanger-on is like, yeah, okay, I'll be a hanger-on for a while, and we'll see how that goes. But I like how it's also established, he also kind of wants to be a big shot, and Mob's not doing it, so I guess I will. Kind of motivation.
Yeah.
I like how you can infer all of this through not so much dialogue. Like, for shows that, trade a lot on the fighting, there is usually a lot of dialogue in anime to explain the fighting and why they're fighting. Not as much in this. Like, they establish it very well with very little, and then the words are just used as another dimension of the fight, rather than explaining how the fight is going and what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's bits and pieces of that where Mob's like, oh yeah, he's just bouncing around with telekinesis. And that's pretty much the extent of explaining the fighting. Everything else is, I'm fighting because of this, and I want you to do this, so I'm going to taunt you and get you to do this if I can, is the point of the talking. And that's more worthwhile,
Yeah,
in my opinion. So,
and it shows us a lot about how the characters think and how they act.
oh god, it was so good. It was so good.
I did tell you the series was good.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, so for everyone who thought, hey, Casey just complains about everything, no, if it's good, then I'll say it's fucking good, okay? This is where we stand. Fucking that one guy in the Discord saying, "Oh, is there anything that brings you joy, Casey?" This, yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah. So
Konosuba was a bit more controversial because comedy doesn't, that depends on the person.
yeah, and it was not for me.
Yeah, there were and there were definitely some problems with that, but this is a show made by somebody who knows what he's doing. I guess it's a very character focused show, and the action
it really pushes my buttons on that in a good way.
and the action serves to enhance the characters rather than the characters serving to enhance the action or the action just being all there is.
Yeah, unlike some shows, and also unlike some shows. God. Sorry, again, we literally just came off it, so it's still on my mind. But this was so much better. So, yeah, this is an amazing show and wonderful palate cleanser. So,
I thought you needed it, so
yeah, I appreciate it. Like, I imagine you actually have a bunch of stuff to do today, so I appreciate being cool.
okay. So we'll see you guys next time with episode 6, which is Discord to become one.
Discord?
Yeah, Discord. Yeah, come on to the Discord. No, it's
probably is a Mob Psycho 100 Discord.
It's kind of a little transition episode, kind of building up to some things that are going to happen later on.
Makes sense.
But yeah, look forward to that.
Will do, because I can look forward to a show that I'm watching.
See you guys next time. Bye.